Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a book review. It is actually my first ebook review. There is a physical copy, I will get to that a bit later on. But yes, you would have seen from the title what this book is. It is From Auschwitz with Love by Daniel Seymour. It was actually his wife that approached me about the book. She had stumbled across my channel and some of my book reviews and thought that I would enjoy reading her husband's book. So her husband is actually, he's got many sort of doctorates, that sort of thing. But the book itself is actually about Rhonda's mother and her aunt. So it's about the two sisters and their time during the war and being taken to Auschwitz and how they managed to survive and, you know, their journey, their life after being in the camp. So the book was supplied to me, I have to put it out there, but this was a book that I was really excited to take on board. You know, I would never review something if I didn't really enjoy it, and you know, for me this was a 5-star book. This is a book that if I had seen it on the shelves I would have picked it up myself. I do enjoy, which is a weird word to say, but I do read a lot of World War II and Holocaust related books. I have a couple other videos and playlists, so I will link those up in a card down below if that is also a genre you are interested in reading about. So yeah, needless to say, as soon as I saw this email I was like, I need to read that book. I thought it was really interesting the fact that it was about two sisters, and the fact that we actually got both sisters' perspective. I have read a few other books which involve sisters going through concentration camps together. I mean, the most infamous sister duo is obviously Anne Frank and her sister, but you know, a lot of the time in the books you only get the one perspective because usually the other sister has maybe passed away, whether that being in the camp or later on in life, or they just don't want to tell their story. And yeah, so that's what I found really interesting and sort of drew me into this book itself. And also I love the fact that it was like a family project, you know, it's the son-in-law like helping them tell their story, and then obviously their daughter helping to do the publicity for it. So that was a really like warming element to me. So this book is going to be published on the 27th of January. Like I said, I was given an ebook version to read. Yeah, first experience for me reading an ebook. It is a fairly short book itself. You can get physical copies, and I will leave a link down below to an Amazon link. I believe it is an affiliate link. Again, I think I have to tell you that. So yeah, I've never used affiliate links before, so this is a first for that as well. But yeah, all links down below, and I'll put whether they're affiliate or not. So the two sisters are called Mancy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologise if I'm not. But Mancy or Manchi and Ruthie, they are the two sisters, and actually Ruthie has already published her own book before, which I'd also be really interested to read just to see, you know, what else she tells in that book. But this is the first time that both sisters have sat down and told their story. So it mainly surrounds their time in Auschwitz. They had quite a big family, and very early on you find out that they lost most of their family. I think it was just the two sisters and a cousin that ended up surviving. And fortunately they had family already in America who they could go and, you know, seek sort of refugee status with. So it's really interesting in the way that this, even though the son has sort of written the story down, it very much feels like each sister has written it herself because of the way it's written. You get Mancy, and I do apologise again if I'm saying this wrong, you get her point of view, and sort of her little entry, and then you'll get Ruthie's point of view as well. So yeah, Manchi or Mancy, apologies, is the mother of Rhonda and the mother-in-law to Daniel, who wrote the book. And yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's very hard with any, you know, autobiographical book to rate it, because it's someone's true life and their true story. but I thought it was really beautifully written. I thought, you know, they have an interesting story. There's no denying that. And it's interesting to see that even though they went through the whole process together, they share pretty much the same experience. They've both told it in slightly different ways. They had different ways of, you know, coping, and even afterwards, and especially afterwards, they've gone on to lead very different lifestyles. They have very different views. Obviously, Ruthie was a lot more open to telling her story at the start, and less sort of about keeping the past in the past, that sort of thing. And Rhonda's aunt Ruthie actually did do an interview for the Shoah Foundation, which is based in America, and it's sort of a place for all these stories to be told of people that came and survived, and even those that didn't, through the Holocaust, to keep these stories alive, keep them going for generations. And for me, that is why I read them, it's why I review them, and it's why I talk so openly about them on my YouTube and my Instagram, because, you know, if we don't, then when these people die, their stories are going to die with them, which is the really unfortunate thing about it. And I think now more than ever we need to remember what went on. You know, there is a lot of anti-Semitism, unfortunately, still going around. And, you know, in the UK here, you know, I think for me it's become more prevalent than ever. And even on my YouTube videos, the ones that are, you know, Holocaust books related, I have had comments of people denying the Holocaust still, and just leaving nasty comments, which obviously just get deleted and blocked because there's no truth behind them. So yeah, that's why I think I feel so passionate about sharing these stories, and this book was sort of no different in me wanting to share their story, because I think it is so brave of them to have to face what they went through. It's bad enough they had to face it once, but to then sort of go back, relive it, remember everything that happened all over again, to be able to tell it to other people, I think that is the bravest thing they can do. And yeah, I think they are amazing people, Ruthie and her sister, and every other person that had to go through it, and those that have come out and told their stories. So with this book, Rhonda has put together a website full of resources that sort of go alongside this. So there are some photos within the book, which is really nice to put the faces to the names. And she has put together this website, which I will leave a link down below. I'm pretty sure it's for everyone to use, and it has her all their diary entries from after when they came out of camp, when they were liberated, and they were asked to keep these little diaries. And also her aunt's Shoah interview is on there as well, so you can go and check that out as well. And it just adds more and more to this book. It adds that extra element of really getting to know these people, and we can only imagine what they went through, and hopefully we will only have to ever imagine what they went through. And that is what is mentioned even in the foreword right at the start of the book, that we will never know what went on in those camps because we weren't there. We can read as many stories, watch as many films and documentaries on it, but we will never know what it feels like to have that terror every day. And, you know, we can only try and educate ourselves to prevent it from happening again. And I think that's the reason why a lot of these survivors have made the books, is obviously because we want to be able to learn and flag up the warning signs before something like this were to ever happen again. So going a little bit back to their childhood and just sort of a little bit about the story itself. So they did grow up in Czechoslovakia, which over the years became Hungary and that sort of thing when all the borders changed. So it sort of paints a pretty nice picture of them growing up. They admitted it themselves. They were very, you know, had a good upbringing. They had lots of family around them, a lovely house. They were you know, okay for money. Their dad had a good business, and it wasn't until actually later on in the years of the war, sort of, they didn't go into, get taken into the camp in sort of, I think, 1944. So although their time was very late on in the war, this really was the height of when the final solution was taking place, where, you know, Hitler's views were really at full force, and, you know, Hungary was actually very anti-Semitic even before the Germans came and, you know, told everyone to get out, which it was something that surprised me. And you do forget reading this, because obviously they're now, you know, in their later years of life, you forget that they are just mere children really when they were going through this, and they're having to go back in through children's eyes to relive it. You know, at 16, 18-year-old, you're worrying about homework and courses and things, and possibly university, but you've not got these big events looming over your head, the fear that any member of your family or you could be taken away, and, you know, killed at any moment. So they did get taken straight from their home onto the cattle cart and to Auschwitz. And when she was, I think it might have been when Ruthie was talking about it, coming into the station, because I have been to Auschwitz, and it's something that I would, if you can, really encourage doing, because it is a once of a lifetime trip really. Just, it gives you a whole new outlook on it, and because I'd been there and just the way it was written, I could just picture myself just there. I could remember what it was like, obviously from when I went. And so when they got there, they were put in the line to, as I've read many times before, whether they go left or right, and they had the very infamous Joseph Mengele choosing whether her and her sisters and her mother went left or right, and her father as well. And obviously the sisters went one way, and because her mother was holding the baby, they were taken the other way. And Joseph Mengele actually gave the mother sort of like a get out of jail clause. He was like, do you not want to hand the baby to someone else and go in the other line? Whether she knew at that time or not whether her fate was sealed being in that line, I don't know, but yeah, she obviously chose to stay with the baby, and yeah, her fate was sealed in that way, and that was really interesting, the way I've never read about him having sort of second thoughts, or, you know, giving someone an opportunity to stay alive. I think throughout their time in Auschwitz, whether you call it luck, whether you call it, you know, divine intervention, whatever you call it, I think there was a lot of luck that the sisters had. You know, they were able to work in Canada, which was where all of the prisoners' belongings came when they came in, so all their clothes, any of their suitcases, food, jewellery, everything went into this place called Canada, and the girls were helping to sort through it, and then all these things go to the German front line and people in Germany, and, you know, for the SS to keep for themselves. So being in there as opposed to, you know, working outside probably helped them a lot to survive. You know, they were able to sneak things, they were able to get clothes. Obviously it wasn't, you know, luxury 5-star job, but it could have saved their life then. And there were just various things along the way which you just knew contributed to the fact that was how they survived. So then going on to after the book, you know, they did manage to be liberated from Auschwitz at the end of the war, and they ended up moving to America because they had family that went. So they went to America and started new lives. You know, they went with nothing, and, you know, you just can't imagine, you know, we move house all the time in today's society, but you could never imagine upping sticks and literally not even having anything. You know, they had the clothes on their back probably, and that was probably it really. So it talks about their lives post-war, you know, having families and marrying and what they decided to do next. And they both took very different ways depending on, you know, what their jobs were and what the other half's jobs were. So it was really interesting to see how, you know, it doesn't matter what they'd been through, you're just completely shaped differently as to how you progress in life and what your circumstances are. So yeah, it was really nice to read then about their families and them having children, and then, you know, obviously of speaking to Rhonda and then being able to put them in the situation. And Mancy actually and her husband, because he was in like the army, they went traveling a lot, and when she was in Europe she actually got her Auschwitz tattoo removed because she didn't want that to sort of stay with her. She wanted to move on from it, and I think that very much says what she has been like as a person maybe throughout the years, because obviously this is like her first instance of being able to talk about the story, whereas Ruthie was able to really talk about it from quite early on, and she did the interviews and she's already published her book as well. So that's my little review. I hope you sort of took something away from this, whether it be you do want to go on and read this book, or whether it's just made you think about what today is. Because today, I don't know if I mentioned at the start, today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, the 27th of January, and yeah, hopefully this video sort of being able to take a little bit of time out of your day to remember what happened, and to maybe, you know, start a conversation with someone about it, talk to someone about maybe a book you've read or a story you've heard, and just remember that these events could so easily be repeated. It's scary, you know, some of the things we see today, not just targeted at Jewish people, but in all different aspects of culture. And yeah, so I just want to say a massive thank you to Rhonda and Daniel and her family, you know, Mancy and Ruthie, for creating this, well, telling their story, and for Daniel and Rhonda for putting it out there and entrusting me with reading the book, making this review, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think I may want to get myself the physical copy, so I've got it in my collection. As you can see, I am a massive collector of books, and yeah, definitely would like to add it as a physical copy to my collection, and I definitely want to see about reading Rhonda's other book, so I can sort of see what she goes in depth about in that. Obviously it's just from her point of view, but I think that would be good to read now I've read this as well. So all links, information will be down below. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more book reviews. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and if you think you might read this book, I definitely would say give it a try. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.